At UFC 294, Islam Makhachev knocked out Alex Volkanovski with a beautiful head kick. And obviously after fights, people celebrate the win, but then we have to look at what's next. And what's next has to be between Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. And my brother and I do believe that Charles Oliveira should be next, and we believe he has a better shot at beating Islam Makhachev than Justin Gaethje. So I'm Mario.
And I'm Martin.
And this is obviously the Rios Twins MMA channel or the Leon Edwards fan club. This is our first video on the channel, and we're gonna figure out how the dynamic is gonna work between brother and I. We're great MMA minds, as you guys know, but most MMA channels are just one person rather than two people. Leave some suggestions in the comments how we should do things, but obviously this is a test run and we're gonna be learning along the way. And thank you for supporting us and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. So now we're gonna discuss why we believe that Charles Oliveira is first and Justin Gaethje should wait. In my opinion, Justin Gaethje should wait because Charles Oliveira beat him, and it's as simple as that. And the only reasoning for Justin Gaethje being next is that Islam Makhachev hasn't fought him yet and he wants a fresh opponent. But that only works if the next contender, which in this case Charles Oliveira, hadn't been a champion before.
Yeah, I think the claim that, we should have Justin Gaethje fight next because it's a fresh matchup, in my opinion, is kind of a soft claim.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, let's do a fresh matchup, not because I'm more deserving or because I got smoked by the guy who should be going in front of me. It's, we want a fresh matchup. And you've been saying this for a long time. The second fight will be different between Oliveira and Makhachev. And Oliveira is the worst matchup for Makhachev.
Yeah.
And Gaethje is honestly not terrible because his wrestling and his takedown defense is good.
Yeah.
But his jiu-jitsu is not great.
Yeah. And then everyone thinks Gaethje should be next because they the only reasoning that I've seen that even makes a little bit of sense is that it's a fresh opponent. But Charles Oliveira is a top 3 lightweight of all time. Gaethje's 0-2 in title fights. We've seen his grappling isn't it very good. And Oliveira, I mean, he's the guy right now. He's bringing in the best numbers. Gaethje, the only people who really like Gaethje are people who want to act like they love the sport, but let's be honest, Gaethje doesn't really have much of a personality.
Yeah.
And Oliveira has a personality and he doesn't even know English, but he has an aura to him. So in terms of the UFC pay-per-view numbers, it makes sense for Charles Oliveira. In terms of just the casuals wanting to tune in, it also makes sense. And you can't forget that the only person that's beaten Oliveira in like the last, I don't know how many years, was Makhachev. Everybody else has lost to him and Gaethje lost to him. So I think Oliveira should be next.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be upset with Gaethje. I think it's very close. This is why we're having the discussion, because it's close. Gaethje had 2 great wins. He had Fiziev and he had Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
But Oliveira beat Gaethje, and I think that's a big reason why he should fight next. Because if you have Gaethje coming in next, then it's just like, okay, well, the guy that Oliveira beat, so it's almost like it's the slightly worse version of the fight because you're having someone come in and Gaethje who's worse than Oliveira technically because Oliveira already beat him.
Yeah, and then it's kind of weird how this works. Everyone was hyping up Dariush before they fought. Everyone's saying Dariush is going to beat Oliveira. Dariush is going to beat Oliveira. And then when it happened, Oliveira smoked him in 1 round and now they degrade his win. Versus Dariush was like on an 8-fight win streak. Poirier almost got knocked out by Chandler, and then he gets knocked out by
the Dariush one. Everybody was like, Dariush is the man. Dariush has the grappling. Dariush
he could beat Makhachev.
Yeah, Dariush is just gonna do the same thing that Makhachev did to Oliveira. Oliveira smokes him, then it's like Dariush isn't even that good. And you have to consider that Dariush is a southpaw grappler, which Islam Makhachev is. So Oliveira's preparing for that. I think the second fight will be far more competitive than the first one, and I think if one of the guys has a good chance to beat Makhachev, it has to be Oliveira. It has to be Charles from the Bronx.
And the betting odds have it too. So before Makhachev and Oliveira fought, I think Oliveira was about a 3-1 underdog. If you guys don't know, 3-1 means for every 4 times they fight, Makhachev will win 3 times. So that's basically like the math behind it. And Gaethje was a 6-1 underdog, which is a huge underdog. So no one believes that Gaethje will win that fight. And Makhachev's a bad matchup for Gaethje, but Oliveira is technically a bad matchup for Makhachev. So we'll touch on that in a second, but we both believe that Oliveira should be next.
Yes.
He's got the best shot. He earned his shot. And just because he got injured, which a lot of people are saying, I mean, people who don't know the sport, don't live the sport, are saying he got cut and he was hiding. Do people not understand that the athletic commission wouldn't have let them fight with a cut that bad?
And I think it's clear the 2 claims for Gaethje are number 1 is fresh matchup. fresh matchup. The only reason why it will be a duo of Volkanovski Oliveira is because Volkanovski had to step in on short notice. It wasn't the plan to just have Makhachev fight 4 title fights and fight the 2 of the same people. So that one isn't clear. And the other thing is, claim is that Oliveira got smoked by Makhachev. I think if you rewatch that fight was a lot closer than people think. Because just because Makhachev was on top doesn't mean he was completely dominating. And you know, I think the only clear shot from Makhachev I saw prior to Oliveira getting dropped was that left hand in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But besides that, it wasn't super clean. And I feel like you see on Makhachev versus Volkanovski and Makhachev are having some sort of a chess match. But Volkanovski seems cool, he seems calm, he seems collected. Against Oliveira, Makhachev seemed frantic, he seemed panicked. Because he knows the fight can end in 2 seconds.
Yeah, so this leads perfectly into the reason why we believe that Oliveira versus Makhachev 2 will be different than the first fight. Firstly, it was in Abu Dhabi, favored Makhachev, of course. And then a lot of people said Makhachev dominated Oliveira. If you actually look at the fight from a grappling perspective, Oliveira was, flirting with a couple leg locks, almost had him in a triangle attempt, and the best way for me
huge upkick as well.
He had a huge upkick in the first round as well, and that wasn't Charles Oliveira. A lot of people think it's an excuse, but he said it before the Dariush fight. In the Dariush fight, which is probably as close to a matchup like Makhachev as Oliveira's going to get, he knocked him out in 1 round, who's as close of a matchup. And it wasn't him. Poirier said it wasn't, Gaethje said it wasn't, Chandler, guys who were finished by Oliveira, said it wasn't the same Oliveira that they fought. And Oliveira is a bad matchup for Makhachev. People don't realize it. Take the names out of it. Take Oliveira and Makhachev's names out of it. We'll take it from a fighter A versus fighter B. Fighter A is a grappler with good striking defense. Just because he knocked out Volkanovski, I wouldn't upgrade him to like some crazy striker yet. But great striking defense, great wrestling, and great grappling. The second guy is a knockout artist who has great jiu-jitsu, which is fighter B. If you look at it in that perspective, fighter B probably has the advantage, and fighter B is a bad matchup for fighter A.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people like to think that Gaethje has more power than Oliveira. Yeah, that's not true at all. I feel like even though Gaethje did knock out Poirier, it was a head kick, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, the big claim that Oliveira made was that when this was prior to the Gaethje Oliveira fight, was Oliveira knocked out Chandler with his left hand, and Gaethje was hitting Chandler hard and could not knock him out.
Yeah.
And Oliveira also knocked out Dariush with a head kick. Oliveira, out of his last 12 wins, so I think he's won 12 of his last 13 fights.
Yeah.
11 have been finishes. The fight could end in any second, and that's huge when it comes to the mentality of the opposing fighter when they're fighting.
And then, fighting the top guys, the finishing potential. There's a reason why people think that Pavlovich has the best chance of beating Jones, just because he can spark him out.
Yeah.
Ngannou can beat Jones because Ngannou can spark him out.
Jones would smoke both of them, by the way, but that might be a conversation.
That'll be a separate conversation. But a lot of people are underestimating Oliveira's knockout power, because if you look at it this way, look at the top 15 lightweights. Just look at the rankings. Who has the best power? Who has the best finishing potential? Who knocks out the most people? It's not Poirier, it's not Gaethje, it's actually Oliveira. So that's what makes him a bad matchup for Makhachev. Oliveira just has to land one. And we saw in the Dariush fight, we saw in the Gaethje fight that his right hand is pretty damn powerful. Which is why it'll be different. Obviously, Makhachev keeps improving. His striking keeps improving. But I think a big reason why Makhachev beat Oliveira the first time is because he stunned him, because we didn't know how good he was.
Yeah, no one knew how good Makhachev's striking was, because, my thoughts on that fight was, okay, well, Makhachev needs to take Oliveira down because Oliveira's going to smoke him on the feet.
Yeah.
But we didn't know how good Makhachev's defense was. Now it's aware, and especially after this Volkanovski knockout, people are aware of how good Makhachev's striking is. And Oliveira will have 2 camps preparing for Makhachev.
Yeah.
And this time it won't be in Abu Dhabi. We're hoping it will be in the U.S. It'll make it easier for us to go, and hopefully we can have some footage for you guys. But I think it'll make a big difference. And Oliveira was saying in one of his interviews was saying that he had a big injury. I think he was saying prior to the Makhachev fight, but he didn't want to say it because it would have been excuses. And I think seeing how much Oliveira wants to fight Makhachev, because I like to look at the mindsets of fighters going into fights. How badly, a big example of that is Paulo Costa, how badly he wants Chimaev. That's why I thought Costa would have beat Chimaev.
Yeah.
How badly Oliveira wants to fight Makhachev has to show that he truly doesn't feel like it was him in that fight. And when they used to call Oliveira a quitter, because a lot of the times people will make excuses, be like, that wasn't me there, but I genuinely believe him when he says that, because after he knocked out Chandler, someone asked him, was like, oh, people were calling you a quitter. He said, oh, that was the old Oliveira, this is the new one. So he shows that he's able to separate himself, the old self from his new self, and so seeing that analysis, it makes me believe him that it was like, that wasn't the true Charles Oliveira in the cage against Islam Makhachev, and I'm very excited to see their second fight. I think that fight will determine who the best lightweight of all time is, because Khabib is not there. I think it's Oliveira number one right now. I think Makhachev, if he beats Oliveira, it's clear that Makhachev will be number one.
I think we both believe that this fight determines the lightweight GOAT. And if you look at the fight, all of the intangibles, the traveling, the fact that Makhachev wasn't well known, all of that stuff, you realize that these people who are saying this second fight isn't going to be close, Oliveira dominating the first fight, are just not, they're wrong. And you should be excited for this fight. I think it's the most competitive fight the UFC can make right now, any division.
Yeah, the dynamic is so different in this fight. He's not going to be fighting, so we were disappointed because we went to Abu Dhabi for Oliveira, but looking at it now, I'm excited because he doesn't have to fight in Abu Dhabi, because that would have been 2 times fighting in Abu Dhabi. Some people were complaining that he said it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. Because although Makhachev is the champion, when Oliveira was technically the champion, he had to go fight in Abu Dhabi. When Oliveira was champion, he had to go fight in Phoenix, where Gaethje's from.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see this second fight, especially now, because Oliveira last time was the champion without his crown.
Yeah.
And that possibly could have been affecting him, because it felt like he almost had a law on the line, because he was talking about how much his family were impacted by the fact that he got his belt taken away. Now he has nothing to lose, and I think that'll be huge for Oliveira coming into the second fight.
And I think so too. And I honestly think Oliveira is going to beat him. I really do. I think he's a generational talent, but I think Makhachev, if he beats Oliveira, I'm struggling to see who stops him at 155.
Yeah, and I think this second fight needs to be hyped up so much. It's number 2 pound for pound versus number 5 pound for pound. And I mean, these guys, like me and him, were so excited about UFC 294 more than 295, which was Jones and Stipe and Pereira versus Prochazka, because these guys are true martial artists. They're great on the ground and they're great on the feet. So this is a matchup I'm super excited for. It won't be a one-man show. It's going to be a competitive fight, and I'm super excited to see it.
And yeah, me too. And yeah, leave your guys' comments on who you think is going to win, Oliveira, Makhachev, and what you thought of the first fight. Or if you think Gaethje maybe deserves a shot before Oliveira, leave that down below. Also, the suggestions on how we can run the channel, just because it's 2 of us. Hope you enjoyed our first video on the channel.
Yeah, for you Dagestanis who want to argue with us, leave some comments. We'll be replying to some of the comments down below. And even if you are a big Makhachev fan, you can leave your comments down below and have discussion with fellow subscribers and just get into a friendly MMA debate. So I hope you guys liked our first video.
Yep, and we will see you guys next time. Leave some topics that we can cover, because the next pay-per-view is not until like another 2 weeks. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.